Hello everyone, my name is Melissa Tinetti and I'm the Associate Director of the Built Environment and Sustainability Cluster in the College of Vocational Education here at RMIT University. For today's presentations, I'm joined by our Program Managers, Michael Goss and Thierry Diamatru. Michael and Thierry will introduce themselves to you all during our presentation. So today we're going to share with you a little bit about our built environment program areas at RMIT, including building design, surveying, building and construction, and conservation and land management. These programs are world-renowned and allow our students to work across a variety of disciplines to replicate the real-world experiences that they will need once they start their careers in these specialised areas. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. So I'd like to start today with an acknowledgement of country. So RMIT University acknowledges the people of the Wurrung and Burrung language groups of the Eastern Kulin Nation, on whose unceded lands we conduct the business of the university. RMIT University respectfully acknowledges their ancestors and elders both past and present. RMIT also acknowledges the traditional custodians and their ancestors of the lands and waters across Australia where we conduct our business. Next slide, please. RMIT is committed to redefining its relationship in working with and supporting Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders and self-determination. The university's goal is to achieve lasting transformation by maturing its values, its cultures, policies and structures in a way that embeds reconciliation in everything that we do. In line with the principles of Bunjil, we are changing our ways of knowing, working and of being to support sustainable reconciliation and activate in relationships between Indigenous and non-Indigenous staff and students within our community. Next slide, please. So today we have some of our wonderful staff members online and they're here and ready to answer your questions. So please use the chat function to type your questions and we will answer them throughout the presentation or at the end. Please be sure to include the program that you're interested in, as we'll be discussing a number of wonderful programs today in our built environment. Thanks for listening so far. I'll now hand you over to Michael, who will start our program presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Melissa, and welcome everyone. My name is Michael Goss and I am the Program Manager for the Building Design program here at RMIT. I will be presenting our program today, one that I undertook myself when I commenced my own academic studies and academic journey at RMIT many, many years ago. Next slide, please. The Building Design program has a very long history as one of the original courses going back to the foundation of RMIT. The current Advanced Diploma is delivered as a 2-year full-time program of study situated on the very vibrant city campus that is part of the rich architectural fabric of the City of Melbourne, and it provides a wonderful context and resource for our students as they go through their studies. The focus of the program is on the development of knowledge and technical skills to create innovative, sustainable designs and construction documentation for domestic and commercial scale buildings. The program introduces drawing techniques for ideation and problem solving, along with digital platforms to enable design, presentation and construction documentation for building projects. The program is delivered in purpose-designed facilities that support the learning required. The studios are reflective of workplace environments, including the processes and practices you would expect to find in a building design or architectural office. We centre, coordinate and apply the learning to relevant building projects, which to date have included at first year level, houses and house additions, while at second year level, apartments, offices, warehouses, community facilities and educational buildings. All of our studio sessions are supervised by our very talented and industry experienced teaching staff. The nature and scope of the projects vary and can include students engaging at the design concept and design development stages, through to preparing presentations for planning permits. Students then continue with construction documentation drawings that are required to obtain building permits. All of the units of study in the program feed into the development of the project work. In normal circumstances, students undertake site excursions and practical field trips to complement and give context to the classroom-based learning. The excursions provide the students with the opportunity to apply and practice their skills previously developed in the classroom. Next slide, please. The fields of study in the program include environmental sustainability, innovative and sustainable building design, various industry standard 2D and 3D digital software platforms such as CAD, BIM, SketchUp, and presentation software. It includes design methodologies and problem-solving techniques, structural and construction technologies, construction processes, architectural project drawings and documentation types, architectural project administration, material selection and the associated technologies, integration of building services, plumbing, electrical, communication systems are just a few, planning and building regulation codes and standards. Our students build the necessary skills to communicate and work effectively with a variety of stakeholders associated with the design, construction and servicing of a building, including clients, or in some cases client groups, regulatory authorities, consultants, builders and building contractors. Contact hours for the program are 22 hours per week, with another expected 22 hours of time to produce and coordinate the various drawings and projects reports required. Next slide, please. While some of our students look to enter the workforce on graduating from the program, some look to further study options within RMIT. The most popular pathway into further study at RMIT for those graduating from the building design program is to the Bachelor of Architectural Design, and then further in the future to the Master of Architecture program. Timelines on this sheet indicate the combined time if you were to complete the Advanced Diploma plus the Aligned Degree program. Other pathways include the Bachelor of Applied Science Project Management, the Bachelor of Applied Science Property and Valuation, Bachelor of Applied Science Construction Management, and the Bachelor of Interior Design. And the most recent pathway is for the Bachelor of Landscape Architecture. Next slide, please. Graduates of the Building Design program are eligible for credits into the pathway programs, but that's subject to them meeting the entry requirements for that particular pathway program. Our building design students who graduate are highly regarded by our pathway partners as they make the transition well and often excel as exemplary students. Next slide, please. In the final semester of the program, students, guided by our experienced staff, embark on a major capstone project that draws together the previous learnings and skills developed during the program. The students are supported in developing their projects through a guest lecture series of specialist speakers on topics relating to the design, building materials and systems associated with the project that they're developing. Next slide, please. As is the case with other specialist building practitioners such as builders, plumbers and electricians, building designers are part of an industry regulated framework that requires registration with the Victorian Building Authority. The requirements include the completion of the Advanced Diploma of Building Design, 2 years of practical experience supervised by another registered practitioner such as a building designer or an architect, and they need to provide a portfolio of project work. Building designers and our students are supported by a professional association, Design Matters. The association holds annual awards for their members and includes student competition categories for best design, best presentation, and best documentation produced by students undertaking this program. Next slide, please. Graduates of the Advanced Diploma find positions in architectural practices. They find it in building design offices and other allied industries. Roles may include building information modelling and/or computer-aided design management positions, architectural technician developing presentation and architectural documentation for building projects, architectural specialist in digital modelling, rendering and animation, retail design and documentation, working as a part of an architectural document team on a specific project with an architectural practice, and then once registered as a building designer, you can practice as a sole practitioner. Next slide, please. In summary, the building design program is a 2-year full-time course of study. Applications for the program are via the VTAC system. Applicants must have successfully completed Year 12. Applicants studying Year 12 in 2021 will be considered on the basis of academic achievement through their ATAR score. Applicants not currently studying Year 12 are encouraged to submit a personal statement, including your response for wanting to study the program, your intended career path, your professional strengths and attributes relevant to the program, and details of any work or volunteer experience you may have. I hope that I've provided an insight into our program that prepares our graduates to enter the very vibrant and diverse building design and architectural support professions. If you think of all the different building types that there are, from homes, offices, hospitals, churches, schools, prisons, fun parks, and alternative sustainable buildings, the list is only part of the rich tapestry that you may get involved in your profession over many years. So it's a wonderfully challenging and exciting profession to be a part of. Thank you for listening. I wish you well and all the best on your academic journey, and I'll now hand over to Thierry, our next presenter.
Thank you, Michael. Welcome, everybody. My name is Thierry Demathieu. I'm a program manager in the Diploma of Building Construction, Cert 4 Diploma and Advanced Diploma in Surveying, and Cert 3 Cert 4 and Diploma in Conservation and Management. So if you can just move to the next slides, please. Okay, we'll start with surveying first. This photo comes from an experience day that RMIT runs every month. So the student can experience, future student can experience the job of a surveyor. So we've been doing that for many years, and during lockdown that was a little bit challenging for us. But next slide. For surveying, we've got certificate, diploma, advanced diploma. So there are the skills needed to have a job in surveying and mapping, we've got all of that covered as a pathway between Cert 3 diploma and advanced, Cert 4 diploma and advanced diploma. On completion to the advanced diploma, there is a clear, direct pathway into the bachelor degree of surveying or geospatial science, which makes the only university in Australia to be able to give a pathway all the way to bachelor degree with direct entry and credit. So the students are job ready when they spend 2 years with us, learning the skills of a survey assistant and survey technician. Next slides. So the program summary is the Cert 4 was a 1 year full-time, but now it's becoming a 6 month full-time. Like the Cert 4 is the foundation of a survey assistant, and we need to be really starting at that certificate level in order to move towards the survey technician, which is the diploma 1 year, and then the advanced diploma will be the deeper knowledge in the new technology, new advancing techniques that we have, which is the advanced diploma. So For the Cert 4, there's no entry requirement, but to go from the Cert 4 to the Diploma, you need to complete the Certificate 4, and to get into the Advanced Diploma, you need to complete the Diploma. So, and all of that will be completed in a 2-year bracket. Next slides. So obviously the pathways that we have, the pathway getting from the certificate where there's no pre-entry requirement all the way to a diploma, an advanced diploma and a bachelor degree. And as you can see here, there is 2 bachelor degrees that will give you the opportunity to become a graduate surveyor with the opportunity to have some part-time work while doing the vocational stream, because we only do 3 days a week of teaching in first year and 2 days a week in second year. So that gives you the opportunity to work 2 days in first year and 3 days in second year. And we can't meet demand of survey assistant at the moment. So it's really, if we can train students quickly enough, they will just get a job in our industry. So next slides. The connection that we've got, everyone is really interested to be connected with us. So we've got the Survey Task Force Life Without Limit that have a database of provide materials for careers advisors, so they know how to get the message out. We've got seminar coming from the Surveying Spatial Science Institute that just talk to our students or to talk to industry, and we hosted that at RMIT. We've got a presentation from the Surveyors General Office. We've got guest speaker coming from industry. We had someone from the Metro Tunnel, and we also have survey firms that come to us to talk to the student searching for employees. And what happens is the question that the student will give them afterwards will be able to get them a speed interview of some sort. So that's quite efficient for them to find a suitable employee, I guess. The work placement, we obviously need to have a work integrated learning placement that gives that connection between you studying and you working. So all of that needs to be connected, and the work integrated learning happens in the second semester. So we just need to do that. So great graduate employment, and fourth in Australia for our partnership with employers. And we're just a typical example of the connection that industry has with RMIT, and that really makes the practical aspect of us very strong. Next slide. So here it's only a few of the people that are supporting us: professional bodies, industry body, task force, survey firm, big, small, and pretty much all these firms and other professional body are firms that just in the first 2 months of starting this semester contacted me to saying, do you have anyone to come and work for us? So since then we had a lot more, but that's the reality. We can't meet demand of people working. So if you want to work, you'll have all the opportunity to do so. So next slide. So obviously we do, there's work integrated learning project, our simulated project, and we went and measured the Captain's Cook Cottage, an amphitheatre in Fairfield, and the shrine as well. So there's all these measurements that we can do of interesting places, and that's really some real issues that we had to deal with. And so we could go out there, measure the land, and then just resolve these issues. So next slide. So the careers outcome, obviously what we need. Learning things that for you to become a land surveyor, party leader, a year and a half, GIS, computer trust person will be around 12 months. So there is a big demand, but we only have 2 years to train them, and sometimes it's difficult. Next slide. So now I'd like to present building construction. So building construction is the biggest program that we have in our cluster. Next slide. So about building site, about building a bigger picture, the planning, coordinating and control of the project from inception to delivery. In the diploma, we'll examine the principle, technique and regulation of the building construction industry for all types of medium rise and wide span building up to 25 meters high. The practical curriculum incorporates hands-on work and project-based learning. You'll experience many aspects of building project and understand how they all relate to each other. You'll go on site excursion to gain hands-on field experience, which will include visits to residential and commercial construction project, a big seller. Graduates have the option to continue further study in construction, project management, or property services with RMIT, and I will talk about this. Next slide. So the duration is 2 years full time, and we want to have completion of a Australian Year 12 secondary certificate of education or equivalent from other states, and you can select to just do that or just straight away just answer the degrees, just to get a pathway. When you know that you submit, you select to have 2 years with us and then 2 more years. But we'll talk about the pathway in a minute. So next slide. So the big seller that we have is when the student come with us, they just learn the foundation of costing, estimating, structural principle, but they always want to learn more. And so we need to provide them a pathway. And as we did with surveying and architecture, we've got a pathway into the 3: construction management, property, and project management. And we are very fortunate that for construction management, we get 1.5 year credit, meaning that starting the degree from the Diploma of Building, you can finish the bachelor degree in 4.5 years. Currently, the bachelor degree that's got an 8 hour, around 80, will get you through in 4 years. So very appealing. A lot of people just are with us for that option to just pathway into the degree, and that's what makes us really, really strong in that space. So next slide. So the industry connection, we obviously need to have industry connections, and we've got industry advisory committee where builders, construction company come to us and just advise us where we should just focus on the area of teaching going forward. So we'll have access to building construction site throughout your studies. We've got site visit that we organize. We've got industry speaker that come and talk to the student, and we've got annual networking event that we normally run. But anyway, for the construction industry, that's the first industry size in Australia. What we can say is 15,829 RMIT students undertook work integrated learning placement, and we've got it in the Diploma of Building, but with the current situation, it's just not really possible to make it happen. But maybe later in the year we'll be able to undertake these placements. Next slides. So this is some of our employers that just come to us, and it's the same thing. They just want to place their students. They want to get some employees. So Kane had a graduate program, so they came and did a lot of work with us. Metricon, I've been a partner for many years, and all the other ones just came and talked to RMIT and said, look, just market our program, market our graduate program, etc. So you know, we're really at the forefront of this, and we are the biggest program in the state. So the big player likes to talk to us first. Next slide. So the industry project that they do, obviously residential low-rise construction, and they learn about that course themselves. In fact, infrastructure construction, they were involved in that, in the bridge beside the convention center, and commercial high-rise construction there. So that's all these different projects that they do. We simulate them, but some are real project as well. Next slide. They're the industry project and the site visit that we do here. For this one, it's obviously when we take the student out to a construction site to just go and check the buildings and do all of that, and that's really engaging for the student, and they really like it because they can apply what they've learned in the classroom to the real set of a construction site. So that's quite good. Next slide. So the career, we're obviously building construction supervision and management. That's what we aspire our students to do. They aspire to be better than just a tradesperson, because they will have learned contract, they will have learned estimating, like there's all this project purchasing, all these things that they have to learn. They obviously gonna need to do that. So next slide. Now we'll move to conservation and management. Just next slide. So the Diploma of Conservation and Land Management will introduce you with the skills used by land managers, park rangers, site assessors, water quality assessors, and conservation staff. You'll learn how to survey animals and plants, monitor waterways, assess and restore natural sites, and undertake cultural studies related to land management. So you'll also go on field trips to a variety of locations around Melbourne, as well as the overnight excursion to places such as Haywood and Barmah Forest. So we're really fortunate to have a program like that, because these site visits, these field trips, really makes the whole learning that's happening all through the semester to come together into a real work site, which the conservation and management, the outdoor is the work site for them compared to the construction site for the previous presentation we had. So next slide. So the program is duration of 2 years full-time or 4 years part-time. It's possible to do part-time with a lesser load. To enter, there's no prerequisite, but because it's a competitive entry, you can have a direct pathway into it if you do the Certificate 3 of Science or the Cert 4 on Tertiary Preparation science stream. We'll provide a pathway. Next slide. As the other programs that we saw before, there is a pathway to environmental science. So there is all these minors that we've got. Environmental biology minor, environmental chemistry minor, a geospatial science minor. Now that's a guaranteed pathway, but when you look at the statistics, the environmental biology minor is the one that just more attract our graduates. So, and as you say, you get 1 year credit. So obviously that bachelor, instead of taking 4 years, will take 5. The student do about 2.5 days of studying, site visit with us at RMIT. So they do have a couple of days at least to work or just do the experience that they need to have by doing all the different activities that our student could do to enhance their learning. Next slide. So that's our partner. So we're really fortunate to have the government, Park Victoria, the DELP, Melbourne Water, Landcare, and Banyule and City of Willacy are just people just working really close with our students, giving them opportunity to work in a whole variety of contexts. So yeah, next slide. And the industry camp, and that's what really makes, you know, we've got 4, 1 every semester, and this one is the Laconda camp. So when we do the road trip, we've got all these stops where there's a lot of different things that we can do and learn from. Then we go to Butchbeam National Park and meet this cultural sacred site. There is a course in the program that deals with cultural sites. So it is the best place to really experience that as a student. So next slide. The careers outcome. So we've got conservation staff. It's a wide variety that goes with conservation staff. Land manager, water quality assessor, park ranger with Park Victoria, obviously. There is a lot of in major project, there is a lot of environmental issues to deal with in any project at the moment, and there is a need for people in that space to answer the call of you know, water quality, so there's a lot of opportunities in that space, and there's some of the opportunity that occur. Next slide. And really what makes the strength of what we do is this facility. Michael just mentioned the laboratories that he was having, industry standard equipment and tools. In surveying, we've got the best scanners. We've got 30 different pieces of total station. So the students have more than they can really have. Dedicated workshop here, the one that you got in the instruction there, they're just putting a house together. The design studio was for Michael and for the surveying when they need to use industry softwares, and they've got you know, we can use all this software remotely, which was really handy to be able to use the software on the virtual machine at RMIT instead of having to be on campus to do that. And the outdoor field location for surveying practical. So the practical are at Bundoora campus, where we've got the whole park at Bundoora to do all our activities and where we have all our equipment. Next slide. So the 2 important dates, semester 1 will start the 7th of Feb next year. I think you know that you can apply for it now through VTAG. You can apply as a direct applicant, and the semester 2 is the 4th of July. Now, some programs don't have a mid-year intake. The conservation land management don't have one, so you'll have to start from February. All the other ones have a mid-year intake. So if you're not quite ready for the 7th, you can be the 4th. So, yep, next slide. Okay, thank you very much. So I'll bring it back to Melissa, if you want to say a few more words.
No worries. Great. Thank you so much, Thierry and Michael, for sharing your programs with everyone. It's very insightful, I think, to see how a vocational program can pathway into a bachelor program. For those of our listeners today that are perhaps doing their very, very best at Year 12 or doing their very, very best at school, a vocational program such as one of these is a wonderful pathway to try something new before pathwaying into a bachelor program. So thank you again for sharing that with us. We've got some really good questions that have come through the chat, which we might address now. So I guess I've got a question for you, Michael. Do I need to have previous experience in the building design or architecture field to do well in your course? Over to you, Michael.
Thanks, Melissa. Technically, no. We take the students from base level through to a very sophisticated endpoint. It does help if you've managed to get yourself some work experience. That's a great avenue to get an insight in and prepare yourself for the sort of study and coverage that you might have in a program like ours.
Great, thank you. What about you, Thierry? Can you share with, perhaps, let's look at surveying. Do I need to have previous experience in surveying to do well in the surveying courses?
Thanks, Mel. No, I think pretty much you've got to be able to be keen on learning outside the classroom. So opportunities to work for a surveyor are very easily sought, and so it's very a matter of learning quickly the first couple of months with us, and then just understand, that's what I need to be good at, and then just join a survey firm that will be crying for your help, and just to do well there. And we've got, like 25 examples, every year, easy. So yeah, it's really working well.
Great, thank you. And I guess this kind of ties really neatly back to the whole built environment, because both of the program suites that you both look after fit fully into the built environment. And if you've been out in the car in your 5-kilometre radius, or you've been out, looking at what's on TV and what projects are being built at the moment, you'll see that there's a direct connection between all of these programs that are being presented today. So just for example, Michael, can you share with us at what point does a building designer get involved in a project? Obviously they're not at the end of the project, but can you share with us the part of the project that they get involved in, please?
Yeah, the students or a building designer would get involved at the concept stage. So they would meet and take a briefing from a client or a client group. They would then prepare a response to that and come up with some design options and alternatives. They would present that to the client or client group, and then, having had their endorsement, they would then develop that design so that it can go through the regulatory requirements of getting planning permits. Once that's done, they would then continue the process to do the construction documentation that would enable them to apply for a building permit on behalf of their client. There are touch points along the way where we would be talking to consultants to get their advice on various aspects of the project, and definitely talking to the builder to get their advice as well on maybe the best construction process that would be applicable to the project we're working on.
Great, thanks, Michael. And I guess once we've gone through, the building design and we've started our project, we'd be handing all of this project over to Thierry surveyors to start to lay out, wouldn't we? So Thierry, can you share with us what happens on a green site? What happens when the surveyor lands out there and they start their part of the project? What do they need, and how does it all work?
I think you actually find that the conservation and management students are the ones who are actually looking at the environmental impact of doing anything for us, and then Michael would do the design for me, and I have to put it on the ground to just tell exactly where the house has to go. Then our student will be doing the whole construction structure, just making sure that the beams are big enough to sustain the roof, and then at the end we'll have to just measure to make sure that the house has been built in the right place, because you don't want your title to be wrong. So that's with all that process there. Before we'll give the feature survey for Michael, so he knows how big the land is, so his house can fit in it. Just that built environment is really good from the environmental effect statement that our conservation and land management student will be doing, all the way to our construction and the checking that everything is fine at the end. So yeah. Okay,
great. And there was a really great question that came in. I'm going to find that and read it out about, why is there, you mentioned, Thierry, that there's a high demand for surveyors at the moment. Is it all of the civil projects? Is it the construction projects? What is it that's driving that demand at the moment?
Well, there's a few different things. First is the demand of workers on major infrastructure project. We just don't have enough people ready to do things. So it's really hard for surveyors to just meet the constraint of a project, of just delivering the project. Then we've got constructions like landfill subdivision, where people want to live in the house, which is fair enough. So there's a high demand, and because the government just gave a lot of incentive for people to build their own home, that put a lot of strain for our industry for that. And also people that want to subdivide their block into two little blocks because they want to retire, and so they want to have an income coming from that. And all these little jobs, they're fiddly, they take time, so that you need people to do them, and we just don't have enough people.
Yeah,
so,
and I guess we've got, you know, like the Melbourne Metro Tunnel. Obviously, there was a lot of surveyors that went through there.
Yeah.
And some of these big projects coming up, like our Eastlink tunnels, etc., where the surveyors are the first people on the ground, aren't they? They're the first people that are out there marking out our projects for everyone else to come through. So I think it's a really interesting field to open up those opportunities. And you shared with us before that you could do a certificate in surveying and then start your career in these projects, can't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, so for a small duration, how long was your duration of your course? You could start working in that industry.
Yeah, and I think you'll find that as soon as they get the foundation skills, the certificate is perfect for that. You know, foundation of drawing a plan, just measuring the land, marking, and that's what makes you a job out there. So as soon as you've got these foundation skills, the job is there, and they do very well, and then they want to keep learning because they know that the more they learn, the better they're going to get at their job. And so it's really fabulous sort of program for in that regard.
Yeah, and working outside, if that's for you or if it's not for you, then there's obviously other opportunities to move into different areas too. So given that, Michael, you've been sitting there tentatively waiting for another wonderful question, can you tell us, due to obviously the COVID restrictions that we've had this year, and obviously lots of other training organisations, including ourselves, have had, I guess, limited ability to teach our students, could you share with us how the building design program has navigated their way through that? Thanks, Michael.
Thanks, Melissa. It's been an interesting and challenging journey to take what we would normally deliver face-to-face or through excursions to bring that alive in a different environment, which is the remote learning environment. Has been challenging, but we are fortunate that when we look at the program, most of what we do can be delivered remotely. The nature of what we do is digitally intensive as a program, so that can translate into the digital environment quite well. So we've, with a high degree of effort, come up with processes to deliver to students, enliven the digital platform for them, to create things like guest lectures, interactive spaces where they can present their proposals, and have that interaction occur as best we can, and to simulate what we would have in a face-to-face classroom. There has been some adaptation to various projects as an alternative way of getting the learning done. And that's been an interesting process as well, and might be something that we continue with and take into the future as something we've learnt by having to negotiate our way through the unusual environment we're in.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know everyone's found it difficult. Thierry, what about, let's look at building and construction. There's a component of practical activity in there, but as far as the other 16 odd courses go, how has building and construction navigated their way through this COVID environment of learning and teaching?
Yeah, no, thanks, Melissa. I think what I could tell is there's 16 out of 18 courses that we could just run 100% online. So really the impact was very little as far as you could do the lecture the way you would normally do the lecture, and the activity would be managed through breakout rooms into classes, and the class would be recorded as well, so student could go back afterwards to make sure that you understood the concept. For the other, when we had to build a house in structure principle, well, we just had to do it as a later stage. We could manage to do some this year. In surveying, where we are outside, it's okay. We can just organize some activities outside because it's obviously not in a confined space, I guess. So yeah, it has its challenge, but we always overcome challenges, and students are very flexible and very embracing the challenge, and they're very grateful when we try really hard of getting them on campus to finish the work. So yeah.
No worries, thanks Thierry. Can you tell us, I guess there's a question in the chat there about what sort of field trips do you do when you are on campus? Could you perhaps share the conservation and land management? What sort of field trips do they do when they are allowed to come on campus?
Yeah. Well, for this one, I mean, it's really important that these trips are they're like a construction where you've got to go to a site somewhere and people meet there to just do something. So I think that's what they do. So with the constraint that we had, we could still manage to do as best as we could all these visits, but that wasn't being on campus. So in a way, that was different.
So, for example, what are some of the locations that we take our students to for conservation and land management?
We've got Scar Trees site that we want to go to in Bandura. We've got in Wantaghi. We're going to get the student there to do some mammal surveys and managing pest animals and weeds as well. And we don't have to go very far for that. Like the Mary Creek. It's got plenty there, so yeah. So they don't have to go very far, but there's plenty to learn because the environment is all around us. So yes.
Great, thank you. So we've got another question here around when do applications open. So our direct and our VTAC applications are now open. So please visit the program pages on our website for all of these programs. For some further information, you'll be able to apply direct through there or get the details that you'll need for your VTAC application. Some other questions we've got. What opportunities do we think that are coming up in the building or perhaps in surveying area, Thierry? What opportunities do you see coming up in the surveying industry?
Well, I mean, there's projects. I mean, I don't know. There's a northeast link that's going to happen, and I mean, I think people just don't realize how much manpower we need, and we are the only provider of surveying assistant and technician in the state, so it puts a lot of pressure on us to be able to get all of that. So I think it's a good thing to be in that position. So we really need everyone to be becoming surveyors. And then the pinnacle is licensed surveyor, and we've got stories of students starting with us to become licensed surveyors. And I've got plenty learning at the moment to become licensed, and that's exciting because I'm a licensed surveyor, and I'm one of these students that's starting for me from certificate to go all the way to be licensed, having their own practice, subdivide the land. Just it's really good. So we need more people. So
yeah, sure. So we've had one of our conservation and land management teachers put an answer in the chat. I don't know if everyone can see that, but just around expanding on the sorts of field trips that are able to be undertaken. There's some visits to some local council environmental officers. They conduct some weeding, some planting, some plant ID, and lots of those places include those local areas not too far from the city, around the Greensboro area, around some of the Balsap grasslands, out to the west as well. So we might go to you, Michael, for a question. Could you tell us a little bit more about perhaps the success in transition for your programs from the building design program into one of the higher ed programs, please?
Thanks, Mel. The transition is very much dependent on the individual student themselves. They have to be, I guess, well prepared and very passionate about making that transition. The feedback we've had both from our pathway partners, all of our pathway partners really, is that the students have a terrific grounding in the vocational program that prepares them well for that transition into the bachelor program suite. So that is demonstrated as well by the success of the students towards the end of the program and at graduation. They often, we often get the feedback from our partners that their top students, they've excelled during the process. There have been some little transition bumps here and there along the way, but when they get to the end, they're always in that category of an exceptional graduate. So the transition is managed by our pathway partner, and they also try to be sensitive to just making the cultural change from a vocational program to a higher education program. So we're fortunate that we have great dialogue with our partners, and we work together with them to try and make sure that the students have that successful transition.
Thank you, Michael. Sorry, I couldn't come off on mute then. Thank you very much, Michael. And I guess, Thierry, there's a similar story for the building and construction area. And just knowing that program very intimately, I guess there's some lessons to be learnt there, where the students that finish our diploma of building and construction and transition into a bachelor program that finish in the top 5 to 10% of those programs. So they end up in industry with 2 qualifications, competing against students with just 1. So I think that's something to keep in mind for the future of vocational education. So I'd just like to thank everyone for coming together today to learn about our globally recognised programs. We will be monitoring this chat for the next probably 10-15 minutes. So please, if you would like to put some more questions in there that you didn't get to, please do so. Otherwise, I'd like to thank you all very much for your attendance today, and we look forward to seeing you at RMIT in the future. Thank you very much.